Do you swear to obey your husband in all things? If not, do you swear to divorce him?" The voice of the mother-in-law-to-be echoed audibly in the holy ceremony. Looking at my soon-to-be husband, who was dressed in formal attire and waiting for my response with a shy expression, I felt a sense of despair about this marriage. "My name is Emily. I lost my mom when I was young, and it's been just me and Dad ever since. Despite his busy work schedule, Dad did everything he could to make sure I wasn't lonely. During long vacations, he'd take me to various places to make memories. Whenever I'd start crying, missing Mom, he'd console me, tears in his own eyes. He is a kind dad. Dad was not good at cooking, and especially right after Mom passed, he'd often mess up meals and apologize to me. Wanting to support him, I started practicing cooking. At first, Dad watched me nervously as I handled fire. But it seems like my late mom's chef genes ran strongly in me, and I soon got good at it. Seeing my culinary skills, Dad happily handed the kitchen duties over to me. I started cooking for a likely exhausted Dad, which led me to develop an interest in baking. Now, as an adult, I work as a pastry chef. The job demands early mornings and late nights, but it's fulfilling. I met Raymond through my work. He's a delivery guy who brings supplies to my shop. At first, I didn't think much of him, but one day he secretly slipped me his contact info. His bashful yet hopeful expression when he did that made my heart skip a beat. As we started communicating, we went out to various places. Raymond, sweating profusely, nervously proposed, "Will you marry me?" We became engaged. Raymond is indecisive. Even when buying a single piece of clothing, he'd say, "I can't decide which one's better," furrowing his brows. I actually like that about him. Some friends thought it was pitiable when hearing stories about Raymond, but to me, his constant disheveled state was endearing. However, after meeting Raymond's mother, I started to feel uneasy. Raymond was raised by a single parent. His folks divorced when he was young. He described his mom as a kind woman, but when we visited before the marriage, I didn't get that impression at all. "So, you are the beauty Raymond's bringing home?" Well, it would be rude to say more." The first words from her were an insult. Raymond, probably tense at the meeting of his mother and girlfriend, didn't defend me. I didn't expect much from him, but the sudden insult from the mother-in-law-to-be was a bit of a shock. When she found out I was a pastry chef, she looked disgusted. Apparently, she'd seen a TV show featuring the busy life of a pastry chef. "Can you take care of kids when they arrive, considering your job? Even taking care of Raymond is questionable. You'll be his wife. You'll have to dedicate yourself to him. Naturally, you'll quit your job once you're married, right? Raymond lives alone and can handle household chores just fine. He keeps his place neat for a guy, so I don't need to quit my job just to take care of him. When we have kids, I plan on taking maternity leave and parental leave, but I'm not giving up my career as a pastry chef." When I told this to my future mother-in-law, she turned bright red. "You can't do that. You should quit your job and become a full-time housewife. The role of a wife is to maintain the home. Times have changed. If we have kids, I want them to see a mother who's passionate about her career." "My word!" My rebuttal ignited her rage, and we were practically at each other's throats. Raymond was visibly stressed out in between us, and in the end, when I left his family home, he offered to walk me out. We were silent on the way to the station. I like Raymond, But I had no confidence that I could get along with that mother-in-law. I was starting to think this marriage wouldn't work. Then Raymond spoke in a subdued voice. "I'm sorry. My mom's a single mom and she's always been on edge, just trying to protect me. She's stubborn but kind. I'll make sure to tell her about your good qualities." I had been about to say that the marriage was off, but his words silenced me. I remember how hard my own dad had worked as a single parent, and thought maybe she was acting that way because she truly cares for Raymond. "Don't worry about it. I'm sorry for fighting with your mom. Next time we meet, I'll try to get along with her." Raymond nodded happily at my words, and we said our goodbyes. We had planned to meet each other's parents on our next date. Raymond said he was nervous, but having met his mom once, I felt prepared. I doubted anything worse could happen when meeting parents. I patted Raymond's shoulder to encourage him, and we waved goodbye. On the train home, I pondered whether I could get ever along with his mom. Raymond had spoken up for me, so I believed he would defend me next time too. However, that next chance didn't come until our wedding day. Even when we wanted to meet our parents, his mom kept saying she was too busy. My dad was concerned, but what could we do? Even on our wedding day, his mom didn't attend. Raymond kept apologizing. "I'm sorry, my mom's been really busy lately," and even bowed to my dad. I wasn't bothered by her absence since we didn't get along to begin with. I told Raymond I didn't want much to do with her even after the marriage. Raymond said, "If we can keep our wedding vows, then that's fine by me." Little did I know, this would be the beginning of a surprise on our wedding day. On the day of the wedding, Dad was crying when he saw me in my wedding dress. I couldn't help but laugh at the sight of Dad tearing up even before walking me down the aisle. "You better be happy, you hear me?" Through his tears, Dad said this, and I smiled and nodded. Raymond, who had been told to take care of Emily, was also grinning shyly. That's where my sense of bliss ended. I was standing with Dad in front of the chapel doors, nerves running high. Music began to play, and the double doors swung open. Before me lay the aisle, and at the end of it stood Raymond and, oddly enough, his mother. With arms linked, they both grinned, waiting for Dad and me to walk down the aisle. Dad whispered, "Who's that?" in a confused voice, to which I frantically replied, "That's Raymond's mom." The event staff seemed flustered too, but Dad and I began our walk down the aisle. Raymond was supposed to meet me halfway, but instead he stood with his mother at the altar. So Dad and I just stood there, dumbfounded in the middle of the aisle. "Before everyone makes their vows, Emily must first vow to me," Mother-in-law announced, unfolding a piece of paper she had in her hand. Glancing at Raymond to see if this was some surprise, he was just smiling at his mother. "Will you vow to obey your husband unconditionally? If you can't, you must vow to divorce." The room stirred at mother-in-law's proclamation. Even the pastor and the staff seemed taken aback, and some were trying to stop her, but mother-in-law didn't care. That's when it hit me, something Raymond had said before. When I told him that it would be difficult to get along with his non-attending mother in the future, he had said, "If you can keep your vows at the wedding, that's fine by me." I had thought it was unusually romantic for Raymond, but that wasn't the case. He meant that it was fine if I could keep a vow to mother-in-law during the wedding. "What will it be? Will you vow?" Mother-in-law was grinning down at me, and inside I thought, no, I can't. I can't be related to someone like this, and I certainly can't obey Raymond unconditionally. Next to me, Dad softly muttered, "Should we go?" To which I nodded and said, "Yes." As I started walking back down the aisle, my soon-to-be mother-in-law yelled, "Where are you going?" I turned around and made myself clear. I can't go through with this. I can't become family with people who act so ridiculously. Fuming, my mother-in-law yelled back. Raymond stood there dumbfounded, while Dad and I retreated to the waiting room. The staff was scrambling. I apologized to them over and over as I changed out my wedding dress into casual clothes. I heard that Raymond and his mother were in another room talking to the staff, so I went to the reception area, apologized to the guests who had come, and said I'd be returning their gifts before leaving the venue. It was a heartbreaking ending, and I apologized repeatedly to Dad. He comforted me, saying, "It's better to know what kind of man he is before marrying him." I couldn't help but cry, like a child, at my father's words. I didn't get to check my phone until the next day. I had received a slew of encouraging messages from friends who had been guests, along with multiple calls from Raymond. When I called him back, his mother picked up the phone, furious for some reason, yelling, "You're late in calling!" "Why are you answering? I wanted to speak with Raymond." "Raymond is inconsolable because you ruined the wedding. We were preparing a wonderful surprise, and now you will pay damages. Be prepared." Turns out, Raymond was apparently fired from his job. He had been working for a small delivery company. The owner was outraged by his outrageous behavior at the wedding and had declared him fired. Raymond was also being criticized by both my friends and his, sinking into depression. His mother blamed it all on me, saying I had ruined the wedding. I was more astonished than angry. It was the first time I had felt such a deep, cold rage. I waited for her to catch her breath and started talking. "I'll be the one asking for a compensation. You ruined my wedding. Cover all the expenses for the venue. And needless to say, I won't be marrying Raymond. Please convey that to him." "You can't be serious. You expect him to pay while he's this upset? You are unbelievable." "The only one who's unbelievable here is you, don't you think? From what I've heard, your divorce happened for a rather selfish reason, too." "What?" "You cheated on your spouse, tried to marry your affair partner, who then ditched you, and you only want custody of Raymond because you're his mother." Raymond and I had met his father on a date after we had said hello to mother-in-law. His father, who had continued to pay child support until Raymond was an adult, revealed the reason for the divorce while drunk. "Be careful, she's a selfish person. Raymond, make sure you protect Emily," his father had told us. But those words never resonated with Raymond. "You think saying sorry will fix this? We're not getting married anymore, and you're paying for the venue and the damages. What made you think I'd be happy with that kind of surprise?" At this point, I was seriously concerned that mother-in-law was going to burst a blood vessel. Just then, Raymond's voice came on, taking over the call. "I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry, Emily," Raymond pleaded in a desperate tone. "You think saying sorry makes it okay? Forget the wedding, but you're paying for the cancellation and venue fees. What made you think I'd be pleased with a surprise like that?" I was on the fence, but my mom said it was a test for the woman who's going to be my wife. Typical Raymond, can't make a decision on his own. My fondness for his feeble yet endearing traits was gone. I was furious with Raymond for not considering my feelings, for not having an opinion on his own. I don't want to hear your voice anymore. I'll consult a lawyer from now on. So, don't show your face to me ever again." I hung up on Raymond, who was still apologizing, and immediately consulted a lawyer that my dad knows. The lawyer was furious when he found out how badly I'd been betrayed. "Let's go all out," he said, and I found that reassuring. As I demanded, Raymond agreed to pay for the damages and the venue costs. The lawyer also filed a claim against Raymond's mom. Raymond and his mom struggled to find a lawyer on their side, and it looked like they had to accept all our demands. I received compensation from both Raymond and his mom and moved out with my dad. It was the lawyer's advice to avoid any potential nuisance. After the move, Dad and I lived peacefully. Raymond couldn't contact me, as I'd blocked his number and SMS. I thought I'd never hear about Raymond and his mom again. However, a few years later, I ran into Raymond's dad at a shopping mall. As soon as he spotted me, he rushed over and sincerely apologized for his son's behavior. According to him, Raymond and his mom had been estranged since the settlement. Apparently, Raymond went on a rampage at his parents' house, blaming mother-in-law for ruining the wedding. Mother-in-law, for her part, argued that he had to pay the cancellation fees because Raymond brought someone like me into their lives. It turned into a full-blown, knockdown, drag-out fight, or so I heard. Both Raymond and mother-in-law got into such a heated argument that they needed stitches. They were so strapped for cash that they had to beg father-in-law for financial help. Unsurprisingly, father-in-law had no intention of bailing them out financially. Neither expected any financial aid from Raymond's dad, and they both lived hating each other. "I hope you find happiness, Emily," he said. Feeling a bit shy, I touched my flat belly. "I intend to." A guy friend from the cancelled wedding with Raymond had been incredibly supportive. We'd been friends since college, and he'd confessed that he'd liked me all along. Now we're married. We didn't hold a ceremony as I'd had enough of weddings, but we did have wedding photos taken. Now I'm pregnant. Raymond's dad genuinely wished for my happiness. When I report this to my husband, he assured me, "Don't worry, I'll take both you and our baby happy." Despite a terrible wedding experience, I found a new life of happiness, and I intend to protect this happiness.